What if I told you some of the world's rarest, multi-million-dollar cars were left to rot in barns, covered in dust, forgotten for decades? A $1.7 million Ferrari abandoned in the jungle, a $10 million Bugatti locked away for 50 years, and a Mustang driven by Steve McQueen, bought for $3,500, sold for $3.4 million. What kind of person forgets a car like that? We're diving into 10 shocking rare barn finds that stunned the world. Stick around, because the deeper we go, the crazier it gets. 1948, Tatra T87. When was the last time you saw a 1948 Tatra? It was discovered abandoned in Front Royal, Virginia, and it was in rough shape. It didn't have a model year listed, no full details, and looked like it needed a full restoration. Yet, the seller still asked for $50,000. Tatra was made in Czechoslovakia, where it had a teardrop shape and an air-cooled 3.0-liter V8 engine in the rear. It could hit nearly 100 miles per hour. Its shape was so smooth, it had a drag coefficient of just 0.36. That's what carmakers today still try to achieve. In fact, this design helped inspire Ferdinand Porsche while creating the Beetle. Jay Leno even owns one. Barn Finds featured this one back in 2016. It later showed up on eBay, still unrestored. 1968, Ferrari 365 GT 2+2. It sat hidden in a garage for 42 years, completely forgotten. With a powerful V12 engine and a top speed of 152 miles per hour, the Ferrari 365 GT 2+2 was found in the famous Pullman barn collection. Only 800 of these Grand Tourers were ever made, and this dusty beauty still wears its original light blue Celeste Metallisé paint and black Franzi leather interior. This Ferrari was first bought in 1968 by a Belgian pharmacist who clocked 21,000 miles in it and had it regularly serviced at Garage Francorchamps. In 1978, it was sold to a French doctor who drove it for just 3 years before parking it away while moving abroad. Though it needs a full restoration, the auction house expects it to sell for up to $165,000. Why? Because, as they said, it's still a Ferrari V12. 1964, Lancia Flaminia Sport Zagato Series 2. This car sat untouched for decades, and when it finally came out, it was worth over $214,000. Only 599 of these were ever made. Designed by the legendary Italian coach builder Zagato, it had a low roofline, curvy body, and huge rounded rear window. The crazy part is that it still wears its original paint without any touch-ups or restoration. It came with a 2.8-liter V6 engine that packed 150 horsepower. This one came from a private collection that hadn't been touched in nearly 40 years. The engines have been turned over regularly, but no one even tried to start them. Collectors were invited to view it by appointment only, since it was a once-in-a-lifetime peek at forgotten Italian history. 1953, Mercedes-Benz 300S Convertible W 188. Even though it's called a barn find, this classic car from the W188 series is surprisingly complete. The interior, engine compartment, and body all appear to be in very restorable condition. Only 203 of these beauties were ever made, and this one sat hidden away, untouched, part of a private collection that's been gathering dust for 40 years. Built as Mercedes-Benz's most luxurious model at the time, it came with a 3.0-liter 6-cylinder engine pushing out 150 horsepower. That may not sound like a lot today, but back in the 50s, this car flew by reaching 170 kilometers per hour. Its long hood, smooth curves, and folding roof made it a favorite of the rich and famous. This particular car was once driven around Europe, then exported to Venezuela, before an enthusiast from New York spotted it and brought it to the US, where it stayed in the tri-state area, only taken out for short joy rides. Now, dusty but dignified, it fetched over $300,000 at auction. 1955, Lancia Aurelia B24 Spider America. The 1955 Lancia Aurelia B24 Spider America in question was one of the standout vehicles discovered at Dutch collector Ad Palman's massive barn collection, which contained some 230 classics. Only 181 left-hand drive and 59 right-hand drive models were ever made. It was designed by Pininfarina, with standout features like split bumperettes, big fender curves, and a sloping windshield. The tropical teal paint and two-tone interior added to its vintage charm. Under the hood, it had one of the first V6 engines ever used in a production car. It came with an aluminum head and other lightweight materials. Some versions were fitted with a rare Nardi intake kit and dual Weber carburetors. That made the car not just beautiful, but fast too. And that is the reason why, despite being abandoned completely, this car was untouched and original, which exploded its value to $595,272 when it hit the auction block. 1956. Ferrari 250 GT Boano alloy. A 1956 Ferrari 250 GT Boano alloy, worth $1.73 million, was just sitting in the wilds of Venezuela for over 25 years. Only 14 of these aluminum body versions were ever made, making it incredibly rare. It's lighter than the usual steel version, which gave racers better performance from the powerful 3.0-liter Colombo 12 engine. This very car, chassis number 0529 GT, actually raced in the 1956 Nassau Grand Prix and the Caracas race the same year. It was delivered new to Luigi Chinetti, Ferrari's legendary US importer, and driven by Jean de Vroom. It had a stunning light blue metallic body, a white roof, and a matching blue and cream leather interior. After being rescued and restored in the US, this Ferrari was auctioned at Monaco Car Auctions Asta Rossa sale on June 8th, with an estimated price between $1.39 and $2.14 million. Bullitt Ford Mustang. The most famous Mustang in the world is also one of the most expensive Mustangs ever. The legendary Bullitt Ford Mustang from the 1968 film went for $3.4 million at Mecum Auctions in Florida. The winning bid came over the phone, and the buyer remains unnamed. It's the same one that tore through the streets of San Francisco with Steve McQueen behind the wheel. The car had been missing from the spotlight for decades until 2018, when the world found out it had been quietly sitting in a Kentucky barn. The Kiernan family owned it for 45 years. Bob Kiernan bought it in 1974 for just $3,500, and the last time it was driven was 1980. His son Sean finally decided to let it go after touring it around the world. Before the sale, he told ABC News, "I am okay with any price, but I would like it to be the most valuable Mustang ever." And we guess the mission is accomplished. Steve McQueen himself tried to buy the car back in 1977, writing, "I would very much like to keep it in the family in its original condition." 1964. Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe. It was lost for decades. Then it sold for $4 million. It's the first ever built CSX 2287, and the only one made entirely in America by Carroll Shelby himself. It was created to beat Ferrari on the track. With help from designer Peter Brock, Shelby built 6 Daytona Coupes. This one led the charge, breaking land speed records and dominating the 1965 season before being retired. After racing, it was sold for just $4,500, and later bought by music producer Phil Spector for $12,000. He drove it for a while, but found it too rough for the streets. So, he sold it to his bodyguard for $1,000. That's when things got weird. The bodyguard gave it to his daughter, Donna O'Hara, who hid it in a storage unit in Southern California. She never admitted owning it, not even when Carroll Shelby himself asked to buy it. After Donna tragically died in 2000, a legal fight broke out. Her mom had already sold the car for $4 million to a neurosurgeon, but the court ruled it belonged to Donna's childhood friend, Kurt Goss. So her mom had to pay Goss $800,000 from the sale. Today, this once-lost legend lives at the Simeone Automotive Museum in Philadelphia. 1937. Bugatti Type 57 S Atalante. When Dr. Harold Carr passed away in 2007, his family opened the doors to his locked garage and were stunned by what they found. It was a completely untouched 1937 Bugatti Type 57S Atalante. Only 17 of these were ever made. This one still had its original engine, body, and matching numbers. Originally owned by Earl Howe, the first president of the British Racing Drivers Club, the car was a rare gem from the start. Dr. Carr bought it in 1955, drove it for a few years, and then quietly locked it away in the early 60s. Back then, these cars were worth just $40,000 to $60,000. Today, well, the car was first sold at Bonhams in Paris in 2009 for $4.4 million, still in its original barn find condition. After a careful restoration, it went to auction again in 2020 at Pebble Beach, where it fetched over $10 million. Experts call it an automotive masterpiece and one of the most important Bugattis ever made. 1961, Ferrari 250 GT California Spider. The most expensive barn find is crazy. It once belonged to French movie star Alain Delon and was found hidden under a pile of magazines in a dusty French barn. It was later owned by French businessman Roger Bellion, who collected over 60 cars, hoping to build a museum. But after his business failed, the collection was forgotten for decades. Unlike most of the other weathered cars, this Ferrari was stored deep inside the barn, so it was well preserved. Auctioneer Art Curiel called it the Holy Grail of GT Spiders, the most beautiful cabriolet from the second half of the 20th century. When it finally went up for auction in 2015, it sold for an incredible $18.5 million. Only a few open-top versions of the 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider exist, and this one is now one of the most expensive road Ferraris ever sold. Apart from the Ferrari, another highlight of the collection was a 1956 Maserati, a 6G Grand Sport Frua, which is one of only 3 ever made. Apart from the Ferrari, another highlight of the collection was a 1956 Maserati 6G Grand Sport Frua, which is one of only 3 ever made. We've also made part 1 on most expensive car barn finds, so if this blew your mind, go check that one out too. Drop a comment with your favorite car from this list, and subscribe because this channel is your ultimate pass into the garages of millionaires, rare auctions, and the craziest cars that money can buy.